they will have to meet much more frequently, and for that we have developed a special procedure. We have needed, without delay, have decided to conduct a special meeting on the 25th of January. These will be heads of state who are members of the Commonwealth, and we are intending to exchange information with regard to the population's reaction to the liberalization or the freeing up of prices, which is to be undertaken on the 2nd of January. If we want to generalize here, I consider that we are entering into a new stage of forming collective decisions within the Commonwealth. It has its real difficulties, but at the same time, we have convinced ourselves that in Minsk, there was a sufficiently constructive level of work achieved, and we have achieved a greater level of agreement than we had hoped for or experienced in the past. Nevertheless, one of the base questions of the future Commonwealth, as before, is the question of the unified armed forces, the question of the nuclear button. Marshal Shaposhnikov has threatened to resign if the army is broken up, but he has not yet resigned. But will we find a decision? That's unclear. The Black Sea Fleet is being discussed in the following report. We have in the Black Sea Fleet, we have the sons of 70 different countries, and we have international teams, and they've worked on a very friendly basis. Can it be that this tradition will be violated? How about for the glorious history of the fleet? How can the fleet be broken up? I have my experience. This is Admiral Kasatonov, and I can say that this is an extremely complex and perhaps unsolvable task. How can we achieve these goals without harming anyone? How can we strip the fleet of everything that it was before, not on a scientific basis, not on the basis of the laws of economics, not on the basis of the laws of history? This is impermissible and inappropriate. This is, there can be no doubt about this. Thank you. They say that the leaders of the sovereign republics who later came to Minsk drove past long lines at the bakeries, and they were told that the residents of Minsk were standing in line because so very much wanted to present the lofty guests with bread and salt. Formerly, Minsk did not have any problems with bread, where in Moscow we have a terrible problem here. But we have just learned that the bakeries are working at full pace. We have 30 to 40% greater production than normal. The only explanation is hoarding before the liberalization of prices. Let us hope that by the new year everything will fall into place. I would very much like that our next report from the past attract your attention. We've had harder times, but nevertheless people found the strength to celebrate and survive. Perhaps no people over the last 70 years has endured so many tragedies and sufferings as has our people. So we're not surprised that in Russia, after all these wars, revolutions, and perestroikas, we still have people surviving. Any other people would have died out. And we Russians have managed to survive, to find food, to start families, to give birth to children, and hope for the best. Up till now, no catastrophes or tests could force them to act differently. On days of sadness and days of parting, there was so much grief and difficult suffering. Even 50 years ago, in December of _41, Moscow besieged found strength to meet the new year. These chronicle shots bring back to us the new year of those days. These are holidays which are understandable to us, for we are flesh of the flesh of these people, and we bear within our genes part of their suffering and their unrealized hope and languish for a normal life, for a life which our people has so long desired. There's not been enough time for joy, but there's always been enough grief. But this suffering has not made our hearts hard. We have preserved love and tenderness. Even among the gloominess of war, people found the strength to play hockey, to go to the theater, or sing and dance whenever they had the chance, in the forest or an open field, just 2 steps away from death. Because over the centuries, while the politicians were struggling for power and political systems were being replaced, when political idols were falling, people thought about the same thing. How could they feed their children, clothe them? How could they protect their home? How could they prepare the planting and harvest harvest the grain? We still have love of men for women. We have a love for God, a belief in God, a desire to live in goodness and happiness. We have lived, as the historian Karamzin in the 19th century said, we've lived through times which are even more difficult. So let us remember that today is we're going to have the new year, which started according to Moscow time at 3 o'clock. So here we have the following reports which have to do with the new year. We've had a lot of snow in Krasnoyarsk, which is a matter of happiness not only for children. The old-timers consider that it's a good time because there'll be a good harvest. And so, observing old traditions on the banks of the Yenisei River, people are erecting snow forts. Houses for military are being built in Belarusia. The Belarusian construction firm Mopit and Elbavau have stated that within a year we will be able to welcome people to their new homes. The Dutch technology, which has been applied in Khmer, in the fields, has cost a lot of money, but the results have been immediately evident. Here we see in the stores a lot of food on the eve of the new year. In Riga, in Latvia, we see the lights of Christmas trees. We see the frost and magic bells. 1992 is coming to us, and we, like children, are hoping and waiting for a miracle. Usually, sociologists conduct polls, but today our correspondent polled the sociologists. What do you think? Will the next year bring what kind of polls? What kind of questions will you ask? How do people, what do they think about the rise of prices? How much can the people survive? And whom can they survive? What topics do you want to work on next year? Only on love. I'd like to find something more pleasant, not just unemployment. How society treats women, how women are beautiful, how people understand truth, beauty, how they are distinguished from each other as people, as personalities. Sociologists hope, as you and I do. But we have a lot of gloomy prospects. We tried to clarify today what circumstances might permit us to avoid tragedies. What do you think? How can we avoid cataclysms? Well, we won't escape them totally, but we might be able to soften our consequences. And that will depend from 2 phenomena. First, to what degree the government will understand that it is the government, and to the degree to which the Soviet man realizes that they cannot continue to play a game with law. What do you want to wish our politicians? I want the politicians to realize that they believe in their ability and right to exercise authority. Bolshevism is not a matter of color of your banners, but of essence. And I'm speaking about our politicians, our people. We consider that if we have abandoned a party, we have eliminated a color of our banners, but still we have preserved our Bolshevik heritage, which is our present. We're going to begin to live again. It's just because we've changed our clothing doesn't mean that we can continue exist as we did before. And that's what I want to wish all of us in the future. So the instability situation will be determined by the economic situation. The following report demonstrates possible tendencies in the economy for next year. The increasing inflation will probably force entrepreneurs to invest in production. This city, which was closed to foreigners up to a year ago, it was highly secret. And here we have homegrown businessmen. We have joint ventures which are competing with each other, perhaps not always successfully. They want to fill the shelves. They think that they're members of the free zone, and we're a little bit close to what's happening tomorrow. So here we can see the results of this shady economy, these private restaurants where there's a lot of food, but it costs to eat